thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really excited to share this program with you, and we've got a lot to cover in the next hour. We're going to leave time for questions at the end, and let's get started. So this is Inspiring Sensory Play, Babies and Toddlers. I'll start with just a little bit about myself and where I work. My name's Jennifer Pricer. I'm from the Greece Public Library. I'm a children's librarian. I've been there since about 2007. Greece is a large suburban library. We serve around 96,000 people. I love my job. I love trying new program ideas, and I'm very passionate about children and the importance of play. So I'm going to start with where did this inspiration for this program come? I attended a seminar at the National Museum of Play, and it was on the value of play in early childhood development. I gleaned a lot of information from that seminar, and it inspired me to start researching further. Brooklyn Public Library does an amazing Read, Play, Grow program. There was an article about that in School Library Journal, and that got me started on some simple, practical ways I could incorporate play into a program. Once I finished my research and I put together ideas for stations, both creating and purchasing them, I launched Baby Sensory Play at the Greece Public Library in fall of 2016, and you can see all the fun we're having there in that picture. All right, so today what we're going to cover. Today is all about play. We're going to cover why sensory play is important. We're going to cover loose parts, what they are and what their value is. We're going to talk a little bit about one of my favorite and most versatile loose parts, and that's the all-powerful pool noodle. We're going to talk about 10 budget-friendly sensory station ideas, and then we're going to have some time for questions. So why is play important, especially for babies? Play is the way that babies learn about the world around them. They explore by touching, seeing, moving, and hearing. And when they touch, see, and hear, they're learning about their environment. One of my favorite quotes is from Fred Rogers, and it's all about the fact that play is learning. And this is what we're trying to teach and encourage the parents and caregivers in this program. Play is often talked about as if it were a relief from serious learning. But for children, play is serious learning. Play is the work of childhood. So benefits of sensory play for babies. Let's start with vocabulary. So a variety of sensory stations in a program like this brings opportunity for learning new vocabulary. The parent can talk about the texture of something. For instance, the scarves that this baby's pulling out of the box. He's getting his fine motor skills. They're also at the different stations, there may be gross motor skills they're building. They're building confidence as they learn about the world around them. They're getting a lot of social interaction. So sometimes this might be the baby's one of their first social experience with other kids and babies. So it's a great way for them to build some social skills as well, like sharing and taking turns. And it's a wonderful open-ended play environment. There's not one station you start with and one station you finish with. They can play on all the stations all around the room according to their stage of development. The benefits for the parents, it's a wonderful time to bond with your child. It's that one-on-one great playing time. Parents can often learn how they can incorporate some of these easy sensory play stations at home. I've had a lot of moms and adults talk about how they've replicated some of these station ideas at home. For instance, we're looking at the sticky table on the left-hand side there. Some parents have created like a sticky refrigerator wall where they've done little letters or shapes or tissue paper, and those things are easily incorporated at home. But we're also educating parents and grandparents on the value of play, and that play is really learning. Let's move on to loose parts. Loose parts are one of the building blocks of sensory play. Loose parts allow babies to see how things work. They're really little investigators and explorers, and they love seeing how things work. They allow the child to play at their own pace and stage of development. They appeal to each child differently according to their stage of development, from baby right up to toddler. One item may be used in several different ways, just like we'll talk about the pool noodle today. And it's many times loose parts are very inexpensive and simple to create or set up. And today's examples are all going to be baby and toddler safe. So one of the loose parts I use in this program is silicone baking cups. This might look strange to you or sound strange, but this is a very popular thing that we use. And the great thing about these is not only are they inexpensive, but babies can all use them in a different way according to what their stage of development is and what their interests are. So you'll see babies can hold them, they can separate them. This baby's studying the texture of the cups in her hands. The grandparent is there talking to her about them. And you see on the right-hand side with the baking cups, one of the toddlers took the baking cups and took our ball pit balls and decided to put a ball in each cup. So there's a lot of things you can do with this, but it's a great example of one item being used many different ways. I also purchased a silicone baking tray where, so it's not hard. It wouldn't be an issue of a baby holding it or setting it down and getting hurt, but the kids can actually put the baking cups in the tray, and there's another little stacking and sorting activity for them. Another loose part that we work with is our Kleenex boxes with scarves. Basically, you can get Kleenex boxes at the dollar store. You can paper them with some colorful paper. On the left-hand side, I've just taped the edges, basically. I think the paper got ripped off that one. But this is a great fine motor activity for baby, but it's also a great way for them to fill and take out scarves. They love dumping and filling things. They can play peekaboo. The parent can play peekaboo. They can talk about the colors of the scarves. They can throw the scarves in the air. But the babies absolutely love to pull these scarves out one by one. So you can take your story time scarves and throw them in the box. I've also heard of it being done in toilet paper tubes, where you can stuff a scarf in a toilet paper tube and have the baby pull it out that way. Light boxes. You'll see them in the back of this picture here. This is another little popular item. If you think of a light table that you might have in your children's room, or you've seen light tables before, and there's actually, you can make a mini light table out of a large plastic container. I wanted to incorporate small, clear plastic containers that baby can actually hold and manipulate. I love this because it's easily portable and easily stored, but I also put some shapes right on the top of there. I glued it to the inside of the box so they can't pull off the shape. I've duct taped the sides of the container together, but it's actually very popular. The babies love to look at the light. They're attracted to it. The parents can talk about the shapes on the top. And like I said, they're pretty easy to set up. They're portable. And I've got the battery-powered LED lights in there, which means no cords. Another wonderful loose part would be sensory bottles and noisemakers. Some of you may already be familiar with sensory bottles. All it is basically a plastic bottle. I like to use Voss, V-O-S-S, water bottles. They're a great cylinder shape, and they allow the baby to really look at through the bottle, and it's kind of like a really great size for them to hold. But what I've gotten more turned on to in the last year or two in doing this is not only liquids in the sensory bottles, but putting items like jingle bells, drying them out, putting jingle bells in there, corn. I have one bottle that's filled with colored popsicle sticks. You can do pom-poms, water beads, sparkles, but they love to explore color and sound. And one of our most popular sensory bottles in my class is just an empty sensory bottle filled with jingle bells. And they absolutely love it. They love holding it. They love shaking it. They love rolling it. It's a great way for them to see and learn about colors and items that would normally be a choking hazard, actually, but now they can actually explore. Another wonderful loose part that's cheap and accessible is toilet paper tubes. So it's a great recycled material. You can take they're very cheap. They're a great fine motor activity for baby. They're easy for the toddler to hold in their hand. You simply punch holes in the sides of them, and you can thread pipe cleaners or bendable straws through them. I like the idea of pipe cleaners because straws, I'm worried about a poking hazard with those, so I use pipe cleaners. You can actually take the toilet paper tubes and paint them if you wanted to take the time to do that, and then string them together. You can count how many you have on the string. And I've also seen it where children can put them on the ground face up, and they can balance balls on top. But I love the idea of the threading because it's a great fine motor activity, simple and easy to do, but it's a fantastic activity as well. So let's talk about the power of the pool noodle. I'm going to go over a couple different ways we can use a pool noodle as a station and activity, and also for early literacy. The first one would be balancing. So you just take a pool noodle, slice it up in slices. You need plastic tongs. There are actually toddler-sized tongs that you can use and order. Amazon actually has them. They're from Learning Resources, and you can order a package of tongs from that company, but we use those, and they're great. They're little toddler-sized tongs. And you can use colored pom-poms, and they can go right on the top of those pool noodles, and it's a game of balancing that pool noodle, that pom-pom on the top of the pool noodle, and using the tongs to pick them up and place them on. It's a great activity where parents can talk about the color of each pom-pom, you can count them, and you're also gaining that fine motor skill. The second thing I'm going to talk about is threading with the pool noodle. You'll see the little girl in the photograph. She's actually from our class, and she is taking the pool noodle, and we have a giant pipe cleaner. You can buy those at Michael's or on Amazon. They sell them in packages of 6 or 8. You can also use a ribbon to do this, but we have these giant pipe cleaners laid out, and we have a little bin of sliced up colorful pool noodles, and they can thread that pool noodle right onto the large pipe cleaner. It's another good fine motor skill, and it's easily tackled by toddlers. They can count the pool noodles. They can talk about the colors. You can even, with an older toddler, you can create patterns. Stacking and sorting. What you'll need for this would be a pool noodle cut up again, Sharpie marker, and then multiple colors for sorting, and possibly a large string if you wanted to put them in a particular order. But if you draw letters on the side of them, children can get some great letter recognition and ABC practice. You can actually have them stack them in a particular pattern, and parents can talk about colors and, again, counting. Floating, this is a really fun one. So what you need is pool noodles sliced, a shallow bin, or a water table. We do have a water table, as you'll see on the left, in our program that we use. It was purchased from Walmart, but this is easily adaptable with using a shallow bin that you place on the floor. I have wipeable tablecloths that you use on a picnic table outside that are plastic that I put underneath the water table. It's never been an issue. You want to use a very small amount of water, but you can get your colorful pool noodles sliced up, and children can learn about the feeling of being wet They can watch the pool noodles float, and they can practice colors and counting again. Also, on the right-hand side, you'll see you can add a little food coloring to the water to make it colorful and fun. And you can also create some boats out of the pool noodles by adding some straws and cut up foam in like a triangle shape. Okay, let's talk about some budget-friendly sensory play stations. The first one I'd like to cover is the sensory hoop. This is simply a hula hoop with all kinds of sensory materials all around it. It's great for tummy time for babies that need to have tummy time and maybe don't like it so much. It's a wonderful distraction. Moms can place baby in the middle of the hoop, and they can grasp and explore all kinds of textures that are around the side. So basically for this, I took a dollar store hula hoop, and I put all kinds of sensory materials around the outside. I have bubble wrap. I took a part of a pool noodle. I used a loofah sponge, scarves, tulle, fabric, anything that we had in-house, basically, I used on this. And I obviously hot glued and made sure everything was secure and safe before we used it. But it's been a lot of fun, and it's a great way to encourage some tummy time. Sensory bags. Sensory bags are a great way for kids to explore things that would normally be a choking hazard in a safe, non-messy way. All it is a Ziploc freezer bag and duct tape. But the variety of items that you can put in these is pretty much endless. Shaving cream is a great thing to put in there. You can see it at the top of the picture that I have here. You can see like a pinkish orange color. So I've put a little bit of food coloring in the shaving cream in a bag. You can put colors of paint in those bags, tape them to a table. You can tape them to the wall if you don't have table space in your room. And kids can feel and explore the squishiness, but they can also see the paint blending together. Parents can talk about colors. The picture closest to us has a little girl touching the inside of the bag there. She's looking at the materials in the bag, and it looks like we've got hair gel, beads, buttons. I've used sparkly gems. I've also filled bags with what's called foam dough. Foam dough is shaving cream and cornstarch mixture. It comes out almost like a very soft Play-Doh type mixture, and you have that in the bags. And that's a lot of fun for babies to feel. They love the texture of that as well. I've added food coloring to make it colorful. You can also just fill an empty bag with jingle bells again. They love to shake that. And this again is great for non-messy exploring. One other item that I like to use in sensory bags is water beads. Water beads can be bought pretty much anywhere. Michael's, Walmart have them. Soak them in water overnight, and you can add the water beads to the bags. There's no gel or anything else. You have to put it in there, and it's nice and squishy, and kids love the texture of that. And babies normally would not be able to explore water beads because of the choking hazard or ingesting them. The shredded paper pool. This is one of our most popular stations, as you can probably imagine, at our play program. I will never forget the first day we did our program, and we opened the door, and I saw their faces when they saw the shredded paper pool. It was pure joy. So it's a lot of fun. It's basically a blow-up baby pool. I like to use the inflatable pools because they have nice soft sides and a soft bottom to the pool. It's safe for babies. They can lean up against it. The way they climb in and out, sometimes they're rolling in and out. So it's a nice way for them to play, and it's still safe. You can get one that's actually half the size, and it's about, a smaller one is $9 at Walmart. This one was $19. but it's the shredded colored paper is great. Kids can feel the texture of the paper. They can crinkle it in their hands. They love to throw it in the air. It's another way for them to build confidence about themselves and the world around them. They love, you know, it's a great way for them to interact and play with other children, and of course, tons of fun. Okay, so we have the felt board and the sticky table. So I created just a portable little felt board, and it was basically a piece of cardboard you can get at Michael's or any of the craft stores. I got a large piece of felt and I duct taped it together, basically in the back, and then I took all kinds of felt in different textures of felt. I used some foam as well, and I created shapes and animals and different that were lots of variety of colors, and basically it was like a little felt board that the kids could play with when they came in. Now, you could use a flannel story if you had an extra one and you wanted to put that out, and they could practice some sequencing, but the babies love to look at the shapes. They're very things that they would be familiar with, handprints, hearts, bunnies. I sometimes around Christmas, I'll put Christmas trees and according to theme, but it's a great way for parents to interact and also do that talking and vocabulary building. And the little girl in the picture, Carolyn, is she's doing a lot of pretend play because she loves to play teacher. So she's using that as that way. The sticky table. This is a great, simple way to incorporate a great sensory, tactile learning experience that's pretty inexpensive and easy to set up. All it is contact paper, sticky side up, and duct tape. I use foam letters and shapes because I wanted to make sure I got that literacy encouragement there. So the kids love looking at the letters and taking them off and on. You can also put large pom-poms on there. You could use tissue paper, but it's great because the children learn the word sticky and also what it feels like at the same time. And it's another way to build vocabulary. So if you didn't have tables that were the right size for doing this, you can easily incorporate it on a wall, or you could use a board maybe and put it on that way. Sensory boards. This is another great way for children to explore different textures and learn new vocabulary and maybe things that they haven't really explored before. I got a lot of great ideas on Pinterest for sensory boards, and I decided to make one of my own for the program. I used a lot of items we just had here around the library, and I tried to get very creative, thinking about what would babies like to touch and feel and be safe. So I used things like fur, I used pom-poms, we had cork here, I used felt, tulle, sponges, pieces of pool noodle, pom-poms, and I've continued to add to it as you know time goes on. And yes, these boards do get pulled and things get manipulated, but that's really what it's all about. They love it, and you'll see the little girl in the picture, she's actually feeling sponges, and I put those on as well so they can feel the texture of that. And I've actually made a peekaboo brown bear storyboard so they can do a little sequencing, and there's felt over each piece so they can peekaboo and talk the brown bear story through. Sensory walkway. This is very similar to the sensory board, but it's a walkway. So babies can either crawl or the toddlers can walk right down the walkway. This is just a simple, nice, soft foam mat set you can purchase on Amazon. And I took the mat set and put anything that I could think of that would be safe and fun for them to feel under their feet. So we have loofah sponges on there. We have a mop part on there. You'll see as the little boy in the picture, you can see the little piece of the mop, and he's pulling at the loofah sponge. He actually goes to every station and touches everything in that program. He's awesome. Anyway, So I used fur, I have paper that is in different textures, that's shiny paper, smooth paper, rough paper, cork, buttons, fabric, cut up pool noodles, pom-poms, and more. So I basically hot glued all those items on it, made sure it was safe, nothing was a choking hazard. And what I love about this is once you've invested the time and it's done, it's easily portable. You can break it up and put it away. It's easily stored, and it's very quick to set up as well. But they're also learning those textures, the vocabulary, they're getting their gross motor play, and obviously colors. The play box. This is a great idea that I found online at a blog that I'm going to mention at the end, but basically a play box is just a giant box that you decorate with various sensory materials, and it allows kids to play in it in that safe environment. It is a wonderful part to the program. The kids love it, and they learn inside and outside play. They get to explore textures and colors. A lot of times they do a little pretend play in there for the older toddlers, and you can see this little girl's reaching up to the top of the box. I have LED lights that I've taped down and put inside the top of the box. So inside there's lights. I've placed different colored duct tape on the bottom, and I have all the ribbons hanging down. So there are different feelings of the ribbons. I've braided some of them. I've got tulle hanging down. So just use a variety of items. I've also put mirrors on the outside that are actually plastic and baby safe on the outside of the sides, and I've put some letters on the side. So really the sky is the limit with a play box, but it's a lot of fun. It is an investment of time, but once it's done, again, you just pull it out at your program, and it's another great way for them to play. I will say though, while you're making this at home, if you have cats, they're going to think you're making this box for them, and it's just a great play area, because my cat certainly did. All right, so bubble wrap runway. This is a very easy, fun thing to set up and do. It's another little station we have. I create a runway that's just one long strip of bubble wrap. I make sure I duct tape the sides. You'll see a baby and a little girl. Carolyn, again, is looking at Emily there, who's laying on the bubble wrap. So this is a great way for babies and toddlers to explore that texture, and they immediately know to just go to that bubble wrap and run down it. I encourage parents when they come into this program for kids to take off their shoes, because they can get the full experience. So again, they're having that great, most gross motor play. They're feeling the texture, and they love that popping sound. And I also make little squares for other children that maybe are crawling and not walking yet, but they can also kind of have that little play right in that one spot where they just love to pop those bubbles. And last but not least, the ball pit. It's another one of our inflatable baby pools, and we have ball pit balls that you can buy on Amazon as well. They sell them in packages of 100. Or you can, again, use the great pool noodle and slice it up and fill a baby pool with that as well. The great thing about the ball pit balls, not only is it, tons of fun again, but they're able to practice those grasping skills. They're learning social skills. They're building confidence and gross motor. But this is another one that's tons of fun. The kids absolutely love it, and the parents enjoy it as well. So program planning tips. Things to consider before starting a sensory play type program for babies is think about your space. Use your space wisely. We happen to have a large programming room and a lot of space, but I still have to consider where I'm putting things, how many stations do I want, what kind of space and tables do I have, do I want to use walls, how do I want to break up the space? Know your audience. I was doing this specifically for babies between 4 and 5 months up to age 2. Now, Siblings are welcome to attend this program. I do have some 3-year-olds that come in. They're welcome to play and be there. But this can also be expanded to include some toddler and preschool activities as well. Focus on variety and quality. It's really not about the number of stations you have. We have up to 20 stations that we put out every month for this program, but you certainly don't need to have that many. It's really about the variety. What kind of sensory play are you talking about? What senses are you using? And the quality. How often do you want to do your program? Our program is once a month for 45 minutes. So I have it the first Friday of every month, and it's a 45-minute long program. It gives us time to clean up at the end, basically. The kids get that full half hour of play, and then it's cleanup time. Don't be afraid to do it yourself. A lot of these things I saw on Pinterest and gleaned a lot of ideas from books or other sources, and it can be a little intimidating to think about creating some of those things, but it really is not as hard as it looks, and I would encourage anybody to try any of these things. Use items that you already have on hand also, and that's a great way to do this and to save, cost-wise. I used a lot of extra items we had in-house right here available to me. I always try to incorporate new ideas. I'm going to incorporate some sensory bags with homemade sand coming up soon, which is just Epsom salts that are colored and then put in sensory bags. So there's new ideas that I try all the time, and I think it's important to put those into your program. It keeps the parents interested and the children as well. Remember to promote it at your story times and other programs. You can promote it online. I always have a handout every month when they come, and it talks about the value of play, why we're doing the program, and then it also talks about when the next one is going to be offered, what time, and that there's no registration. That's another thing to consider about your space. You may need to register. We do not register for this program because we have enough space where we can accommodate a large amount of kids. And again, you set the tone of the program. This program really is about parent-child, caregiver-child interaction. We want it to be about learning and play. We don't want it to be mom coffee hour or social time, and that can start to happen. So it's important that we set the tone of the program, and we kind of police that in the room. And I think once that starts to happen, we model that for the parents and the kids, and it really turns around from there. I wanted to share some of my ideas and inspiration and different sources that I've used. I've listed here my favorite blogs and websites where I've gotten a lot of the ideas from, and books that I've used to gain some new creative ideas and doing things that incorporate loose parts. So Loose Parts 1 and 2, those are fantastic books. The websites that I have here, and then also I would encourage you to read the Read, Play, Grow article, Enhancing Early Literacy at Brooklyn Public Library, and that's from School Library Journal, July of 2013. I'm also going to encourage you, if you would like to see any of these stations up close and personal, you can, if you're in the Rochester area or you're near Rochester, you're welcome to come to our program anytime and check out what we're doing. Also, I'm going to be presenting at ELSC this year in September at the ELSC Institute, and I have my sensory stations with me there. And I'd love to see all of you and answer any questions you might have.
All right, we have a couple of questions, and we'll let everybody fill theirs in while we do this. The first one was, were there any activities that you had tried that didn't work out or that the kids didn't find interesting?
Okay, so that's a good question. Yes, I have tried different sensory bags. When I was putting them on the tables all the time, it wasn't as appealing to as many children, so I started putting them on the floor, things like that. Trying to think of another thing that I've done that wasn't popular. I can't think of off the top of my head what wasn't, but it was definitely certain. Oh yes, another thing I tried was bubble wrap painting, and I attached that to the wall, and they were able to manipulate the bubble wrap and the paint inside, and that looks like a great idea, but it actually started leaking right away. And I tried it 2 different times, and I had to nix that idea. So that was one that did not work out.
Okay, and our second question was, you had mentioned pool floats and jingle bells a lot. Are there any other essential materials that you would recommend?
Okay, so I would say if you could get a set of sensory balls or shapes, those are great things to have for very young babies because they can manipulate them, they can throw them, they love that. I really would say that if you can have one kind of messy station, if you're going to do anything, the shredded paper pit is just really a big hit, and it's fabulous, and the kids love it as well.
All right, we'll give everyone another minute or so to just get in any last minute questions. And Jennifer, I just want to say thank you again for doing this presentation, and for all of our attendees. Like she said, she is presenting at ALSC this year, so if you want to hear about this again and get some hands-on experience, that would be a great place to do it. And if we don't have any other questions, we can conclude today's presentation. Thank you, Jennifer, and thank all of you for joining us this afternoon, and I hope everyone has a great day.